This is Nick Nilsson, Mad Scientist of Muscle, and what I've got for you today here is a killer new variation of the barbell bench press. Now, when you're doing bench press, one of the biggest things that people encounter is they have a hard time feeling their chest working. So you're doing a lot of pressing, but your anterior delts and triceps tend to take over a lot. What we're going to do here is use bands to take that completely out of the equation. So the setup is going to take a little bit of explaining here, and you're going to need a little bit of specialized equipment, nothing too crazy. Most gyms will have something like this. What you're going to do here is set up in the power rack, if you have a rack. Doesn't necessarily need to have a rack, though it's going to be helpful, especially for part of this. Otherwise, a regular bench press setup is going to work. Take your regular Olympic bar. You are going to use a pair of plates that have handles in them. This is one of the key pieces of equipment you need. The other is a set of bands, small bands preferably. Now, as you can see, what I've done here is I've looped this band through the handle. Done the same thing on the other side. The other thing you're going to notice here is that I've actually shifted this plate about 12 to 15 inches out towards the end of the bar. This is important because what you're going to be doing here is actually looping your wrist through the band. As you go to do the exercise, you're going to stretch that band. So you're going to get continuous inwards pulling tension on the chest while you're also bench pressing. Yeah, ridiculous. Incredibly effective, ridiculously effective. So I've got another 25-pound plate on here just to add a little more resistance on the barbell bench press, but essentially you're getting two forms of resistance in one exercise, and one of those forms of resistance is continuous inward tension, which is exactly what the pecs do functionally. So you're going to need one collar here to brace the plate, and you can kind of see on the outside here that I've got one plate here, I've got the 45-pound with the handle here, and I've got the other plate. You want to keep them pretty far out to the end of the bar. I'll take a close-up on this as well so you can see exactly what I'm talking about here, but basically you've got maybe 2 inches between here, so you've got just enough room for a collar and a couple of plates on the end of the bar. Now, I think you're kind of getting an idea of how potentially effective this can be. So what I'm going to do here is demonstrate a set. Once you get the bands looped through, put these a few inches down below the level of your wrist. You don't want these right on the wrist. I find that actually interferes with the feel of the exercise. So you want it probably about 2 to 3 inches below the wrist itself. Reach through here, get some stretch. Now, here's one of the benefits of how you're doing the exercise with the bands. Once you lie back, these bands are on the bottom. As you're doing the exercise, you're actually going to get help out of the bottom because the bands are going to contact the safety rail here and give you a little bit of assistance from the bottom. It's also going to really tighten up the entire upper body as you're doing the exercise. The ironic thing is the weight will feel lighter, but the exercise will be harder. So basically your chest is going to get worked more as you're doing this, even though the weight might actually feel easier than it normally would be. So grip on the bar right where you normally would. Get set up. And press. So here's a close-up of what the setup looks like. As you can see, got this much space here between the first plate and the inside collar of the bar. Got one collar here, got the band looped through the handle, got the other plate, and then I've got the collar on the outside to make sure that doesn't move. Right, so that is the exercise. Now, as you can see, as you're doing this, the stretch of the bands really activates the chest. So as you're pressing and including more of the chest, you're really focusing on those pecs over the triceps and the anterior delts. So if you've got a pair of plates that have the handles in them, if you've got some bands, this is exactly what you need to do this exercise. If you've got the rack, you're going to set the rails and you're going to get a little bit of help out of the bottom. This is going to really feel nice and solid as you're doing the exercise, and you're going to get a great pump and a great burn in your chest. Potentially something you may never have felt before, especially if you have trouble feeling your chest as you're doing a bench press. So if you got the setup, give this one a try. I'd love to hear how it works for you.